We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this video was made, the Darug and Gundungurra people. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, and all those of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander descent that may be watching. Welcome the stranger, a love that is felt and known. Imagine. Home. It is night. You don't know what the future will hold. You have to leave your home. You know you may never be able to return. War has broken out in your country. You can hear gunfire. The fighting is nearby. You must leave quickly. It is unsafe for you to stay where you are. Trucks are coming to take your family to the coast. You will then look for a boat to take you to safety. There is no time to waste. You must move quickly. Fleeing. The truck has arrived. You have packed only what you can carry. Take one last look at your home. You are leaving friends behind. There is nothing you can do for them. You pray that they will be safe. You cannot get comfortable in the truck. The driver is in a hurry to get you to safety. They speed along. They almost lose control going around a corner. The brakes screech. A bag holding precious valuables that belongs to a family member flies out of the truck. The driver cannot hear you shouting to stop. The bag is left far behind. Tough mountain ranges. The truck has to climb a steep mountain. It gets slower and slower, and a strange choking noise comes from the engine. You wonder if this truck will ever get you to the coast. You hear a mighty bang. The truck grinds to a halt. The truck's engine is broken and cannot be fixed. You must continue the journey on foot. You find that your bag is too heavy to carry. The journey on foot. You struggle on, but find it harder to keep going. It's a hot day and the sun is beating down. There has been no rain for more than a year. The roads are hard, full of holes and difficult to walk on. One member of your family falls and hurts their leg. They cannot go on without help. Two of you will have to carry them from the forest to the sea. You continue and enter a thick green forest. You are all very tired, especially the oldest people in your family. You have to keep going. You need to slash and cut your way through the trees. What will you use to do this? At last, you can see the sea. You have reached the coast. Splitting up. The fish boats are waiting in the bay. Unfortunately, the boats are very small. None can take more than 4 people. Your family must split up. This is very hard. You become very upset. You want to stay together with your family. You are frightened of what might happen. You have no choice. The fishing boat, they demand payment. You have no money. They agree to let you on board in exchange for the most valuable thing in your bag. The boat is leaving in 4 minutes. You must decide what to give them. The boat sets sail. The sea is rough and stormy. The boat starts to leak and seawater floods in. At least you can see the land. It's been a terrible journey. You are anxious to find out what has happened to the others in your family. You have hope they have arrived safely too. What will happen now? You don't know, but you hope for peace and safety and welcome. This is a reflection made by Caritas Australia called Refugee Simulation. What will you find? What is the place that people seeking asylum and refuge in Australia find? This is the question that we in Australia, an ostensibly peaceful place, are asked. What will people find in our shores and in our country and in our community? Will they find a place of welcome? This reflection, or audio simulation, is what refugees and asylum seekers are faced with. Right now, in our diocese and across the world, people are seeking a place of welcome after fleeing their homes, their safe places, because those safe places weren't safe any longer, having to leave all that they had built over their life behind. There are 70 million people around the world that have had to flee their homes. That's almost the entire population of Australia times 3. We, as people of goodwill, as Christians and Catholics, are called throughout the Bible, throughout our tradition, and right now through the Spirit, to respond to solidarity, to respond in solidarity, to make space, to allow people to feel that they belong again, that they are welcome. I'm Patrice Moriarty, the Social Justice Coordinator of the Diocese of Parramatta. In this video, we'll focus on the notion of welcome. What does welcome mean for us, and why welcome is such an important Christian and Catholic virtue, especially when it comes to people who the Bible may refer to as foreigners or strangers, but for us would be refugees and asylum seekers. We'll hear from Hava, an incredible, resilient and inspiring woman who came to Australia through a humanitarian visa. We'll hear her story, how she was welcomed, and how she would like that welcome to be extended to other people in our community today, regardless of their visa status. We'll also hear from Miriam, Sabeen and Georgia from the House of Welcome. That's a Catholic community organisation that was built to respond to the call of welcome that arose in the early 2000s within our diocese. We've all had times in our lives where we've felt truly welcome. It's a feeling we may know instinctively when we walk into a room or meet with a person face to face. For me, one of the greatest welcomes I received was as a young person timidly and nervously stepping into a youth group for the first time. I knew I was welcome because I felt it. I could see it in the people's faces, in the thoughtfulness of people's actions, and the hospitality that they showed. I felt loved. And I think we all know what it feels like when we don't do that. But to feel welcome, often you have to put yourself in a place of vulnerability. To feel welcome, first we have to go to a new space, not knowing if we belong there or not. Stepping out of what we know into a new place of vulnerability. It is so important for us to honour the courage and bravery of showing that vulnerability. Asylum seekers and refugees are betting on hope, that there is a place that is safe for them, that despite whatever is happening now, there is still a place that they still belong. How do we respond to that hope? We must not crush those hopes, but help to realise them. To truly be a welcoming community, driven by the unconditional love of God, and I'll say that again, unconditional love, we must welcome the person, show our joy of getting to know that person, celebrate their gifts, and do what we can to help smooth the way of people that are new to our shores. We must see the child of God first and foremost and always, regardless of their visa or paperwork. We must welcome the stranger. So for us as Catholics, why is it important for us to help and create a place of welcome for refugees, and how do we do that? I think understanding the why is a really important first step. It's not really an add-on or just a general issue of today or of our society or for social justice warriors on social media, but actually refugees or people seen as foreigners fleeing are of great importance throughout the Bible. In the first instance, we need to recognize that experience of fleeing for you and your family's life because of persecution or disaster is something that Jesus, Mary, and Joseph experienced themselves. Not only was Jesus our Saviour, born humbly in a manger, but as described in Matthew chapter 2, because Herod was threatened by Jesus, an angel came to Joseph and told him to flee from Judah to Egypt to safety. That same experience of needing to leave family and friends, not knowing where to go or whether you will see your friends and family ever again, Joseph and Mary, the Mother of God, experienced that. Jesus too, although it's not exactly how old he was, but probably less than 2, experienced this as a baby. Similarly, the theme of welcoming the stranger is a very important and key theme throughout the Old Testament. For example, in Exodus 23:9, it says, "Do not oppress a foreigner. You yourselves know how it feels to be foreigners, because you were foreigners in Egypt." In Leviticus 19:34, the foreigners residing among you must be treated as native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. Then again in Matthew 25:35, Jesus plainly states how we treat the stranger is how we treat him. It's in the passage of Matthew 25 where he says that on Judgment Day we'll be divided based on our treatment of those considered the least amongst us. Did we provide them with food, water, welcome? Did we visit them, help them when they were sick? Jesus says very plainly there, how we treat them is how we treat him. So we need to go beyond words and think, do my actions meet this call? Similarly, if we look at the messages of recent popes, it's really clear that refugees and asylum seekers need to be welcomed and recognized and treated as being our brothers and sisters, as one of us. St. Pope John Paul II said in 2000, "The Church hears the suffering cry of all who are uprooted from their own land, of families forcibly separated, of those who, in the rapid changes of our day, are unable to find a stable home anywhere. She senses the anguish of those without rights, without any security, at the mercy of every kind of exploitation, and she supports them in their unhappiness. We are called to work so that every person's dignity is respected. The immigrant is welcomed as a brother or sister, and all humanity forms a united family which knows how to appreciate with discernment the different cultures which compromise it." He said that in the message for World Migration Day in 2000. Pope Francis in 2014 said, "We ourselves need to see and enable others to see that migrants and refugees do not represent a problem to be solved, but are brothers and sisters to be welcomed, respected, and loved." And speaking now, if we think about refugees and asylum seekers or the foreigners, they're often portrayed at the moment as a problem, as a burden that is to be solved. We've lost our perspective, and we can forget to see each and every person, no matter how they arrive in our country or at our doorstep, as human beings, as our brothers and sisters. We've forgotten how to welcome the stranger. And in fact, because of our faith, it's important that we say no to this phenomenon, that we are part of that welcome and pray, raise awareness, raise material aid, and advocate for and with our brothers and sisters. Another essential part of welcoming is listening to people's stories. I'll now pass it over to Hava, an incredible person who came to Australia from Afghanistan with a humanitarian visa. Thanks, Hava.
My name is Hava, and I arrived in Australia as a refugee in 2013 and have been living here for 7 years. I came with my daughter and son. Their well-being, education, and safety is of the utmost importance to me. I came from a country where human rights were non-existent. My children never feel safe or secure. I was born Hazara, a minor ethnicity from Afghanistan. I was from a large family, 3 brothers and 1 sister. As a Hazara, my family and my people suffered constant discrimination and persecution. When I was only 2 years old, my parents made the decision to leave Afghanistan due to no longer being able to live under persecution and injustice. We first arrived in Iraq, and later we were given refugee status in Iran. However, life in Iran for Afghani refugees was equally as bad. I desperately wanted to learn and study, so despite all challenge, I managed to complete my schooling. I was determined to continue studying, and I obtained my teaching degree, and later I also studied law. I lived in Iran for 25 years, and during that time I became an advocate working for advancement and rights of refugee women, establishing support group in English and Persian and literacy classes, computer training and handicrafts. This was to empower women towards independence, self-sufficiency, and to eventually train others. I also established schools for Afghani refugee children from primary to year 12. In 2003, after a new government was formed in Afghanistan, and so I returned to Afghanistan in order to register the Afghani refugees, that's schools that I had created in Iran. Despite the change of the government, the Taliban still had a significant influence. What I saw was that women were still discriminating against. and their rights violated. Domestic violence was common, but if the women complain, their complaint fell on deaf ears. Seeing their suffering was extremely painful for me, and I wanted to help them. And I returned to my birth province in Afghanistan, and together with the government, the UN, and other organizations, we established the Commission for the Rights of Women. I became the director of Department of Women Affairs. This allowed women voices to be heard, as well as gain access to legal aid and other services. In each of the surrounding village, I set up community center. This allowed support and communication between the women. We taught basic literacy, cooking, living, and handicrafts skills. And a park and a gym established for the use of family. It became too much dangerous for my children and I to remain in Afghanistan. We escaped to Pakistan, where we remained for 8 months. We were given shelter by the UNHCR, who interviewed us and referred us to Australian embassy. We were successfully in obtaining a humanitarian visa. We are now citizens in Australia. When first arriving in Australia, my family and I lived in Hava. We were there for approximately 7 months. One of our main challenges was not being able to speak English. So we did not know how to access shops, doctors, or other essential services. This challenge. On arrival in Hobart, lovely ladies called Jill and Romeli with her 3 lovely children welcomed us at the airport with the flowers and warmly welcoming in Australia. I was allocated a caseworker named Rosa from Centicare. She went beyond the call of duty and would always be there in emergency time. In 2018, my daughter and I achieved our higher school certificate at Bankstown Senior College. Today, both my daughter and I are studying at Macquarie University. She is studying Bachelor of Media and Bachelor of Social Work, and I am studying Law and International Relations. My son is also studying at Newcastle University. I feel very passionate about wanting newcomers to feel welcome and inclusive to this country. In my community, there are many people seeking asylum who have thought through the same thing as me, but because they came in here by boat, they have no access to a permanent visa. Because they are on temporary visa, they cannot get many forms of government support, for example, public housing or Centrelink. Especially during the coronavirus, people seeking asylum are feeling unwelcome and excluded. It's because of this that I wanted to get involved helping communities here in Australia. I joined the Sydney Alliance campaign to help change policies about asylum seekers, and also the advocacy team for Jesuit refugee services for the advancement of women. I am also working with settlement services and Australian relationship, and also member of a national advocacy group. My passion and love are working with people. I want to be the voice of refugees and asylum seekers, particularly the women. I want to represent the silent voice of other women who struggle with the gender inequality in their countries and here. It was a simple act of kindness from a stranger with a bunch of flowers at the airport that made all difference.
Thank you so much, Hava. What an incredible person. We are so lucky to have her and her family here with us. So as Hava said, COVID-19 has affected so many within our community, but has greatly impacted people seeking asylum within our diocese. Many have no access to any safety net of support. Many seeking asylum and their families within our diocese are excluded from JobKeeper, JobSeeker, Medicare, or income assistance. Many have lost their jobs, cannot pay their rent, and are facing homelessness. They're struggling to feed their families, are facing a winter without heat, and facing destitution. Within our diocese, emergency assistance calls have increased by 400%. Eviction notices have been given to asylum seekers, including those with families and some living in informal, difficult situations. There is a 77% increase to requests for food bank items, and services are facing a reduced level of volunteers and donations. Increased incidents of domestic violence are happening, and there's a dramatic increase in mental health support needed. House of Welcome and Jesuit Refugee Services are two Catholic community programs working in our diocese, and they need to provide 430 bags of food that feed 1,100 women, men and children weekly. In short, it's an emergency and we are called to action. Let's hear now from Miriam, Sabeen and Georgia about the House of Welcome, a wonderful place built on relationships as well as concrete actions and advocacy.
Hi, my name is Miriam. I'm the service manager at House of Welcome.
Hi, my name is Sabeen and I'm speaker for Chesapeake Dome and House of Welcome.
Hi, my name is Georgia and I'm the casework manager here at House of Welcome.
The House of Welcome is a project of St Francis Social Services, and we opened up our doors in 2001 to provide a safe and welcoming space for people seeking asylum and refugees living in the community. A group of volunteers through the Ecumenical Council responded to, after they became aware of, people being released from Villawood Detention Centre, turning up at the local train station with a small stipend but with no accommodation, no access to service providers, no community connections, no food, and at times limited or no English. The volunteers quickly realised that safe and stable accommodation was essential for people coming out of detention as they risked destitution, and this was a compounding factor for mental and physical health issues. So House of Welcome started renting 2 houses to provide emergency accommodation, and this has grown to a suite of 19 houses that we lease to provide safe and stable accommodation for around 90 people per night. Since the House of Welcome opened its doors, it has been responding to an ever-changing policy landscape. These policies have had devastating impacts on people seeking asylum and refugees on temporary visas, including no possibility for family reunion, limited access to work rights, Medicare, education and training. This has been extremely detrimental to people being able to participate in the community, to make connections and to feel welcome. With very little federal and state government support, increasingly it has fallen on charities such as the House of Welcome to provide support services for people seeking asylum. We do this through direct services with our clients, through advocacy, lobbying, and also through community education programs where we bring communities together to meet people with lived experience so they can hear about issues facing people seeking asylum and learn about the refugee journey. The House of Welcome is a values-based organisation. Our services and our activities are all premised around the core values of welcome, respect, connect and empower. House of Welcome works with around 3,000 people per year, and throughout this COVID crisis this number has increased substantially. Apart from the housing program, we also provide a casework program where we're linking people with legal and medical services. We have a health and dental clinic here. We provide financial and emergency assistance for people who are facing homelessness or have no access to income. We do community engagement programs so that we can mitigate social isolation and create a welcoming space for some of the most vulnerable in our community. We have an employment program so that we can ensure people are independent and have self-efficacy. We also have a catering social enterprise which is culturally inspired and fusion inspired as well, where people seeking asylum and refugees are able to contribute and share their culture with the wider community. I'd like to introduce Sabeen, who will talk a little bit more about what welcome means to her.
Hi, my name is Sabeen and I belong to Pakistan, and I'm a medical doctor by profession, and I'm here to speak for Just Be Told, and I want to share my experience that how does it feel when you are welcomed or not welcomed. So let me introduce myself, that I'm a Pakistani medical doctor who used to be practice in the field of gynae, which is delivering the babies, and it's related to the women's health, especially reproductive system. And a part of my job was to carry out the medical legal examinations for the victims of sexual and physical assault. So I came here to Australia by a skilled visa because I was having the medical administration background also. So when I came here, I thought I might start a new life over here, because of circumstances in my country were not favorable, and it was risky for me, and my life was at risk. And so I came here and I tried to start life over here, but unfortunately I couldn't get a job, and I lost my savings because I didn't earn and I spent, and I was not having anyone to guide me, and then I was totally cut off from the community, no connections with the community, and I felt betrayed or frustrated, and my condition was emotionally and financially in crisis. So until I met here in House of Welcome through Red Cross, and after I applied for asylum here, but my status as asylum seeker, not a refugee. As you know that being asylum seeker, it's different from refugee. We can't access all the facilities which refugees can. So people here, they helped me a lot, and they connected me to the community so that I could know the community, how the community is beautiful. Before that, I was thinking that probably the government policies are the same as people. So, but now, after they helped me a lot, everything for my food, my bills, and my Opal card, Medicare problems, they helped me a lot. But now, it's COVID has affected everyone. Again, we are the part of community who want to have community, but we can't. So we are again stuck in our houses and disconnected from the community because we can't come frequently to the center. So yeah, it's pretty hard for us to survive. And our best hope is this kind of organizations and the community, beautiful community of Australia. So thanks for helping us.
As the casework manager here at House of Welcome, we've seen a huge increase in demand across all levels of our service. Overall, there has been more than 110% increase in demand for service at House of Welcome. This has included over 77% increase in referrals for our food bank program, and we have had to more than triple our emergency assistance payments, with this projected to increase 7-fold by the end of the period. These payments are essential so that people can pay their rental costs, with more than 60% of these payments going towards people in rental arrears and at risk of homelessness. The financial stress of job loss and pending homelessness has a huge impact on people seeking asylum's mental health. However, it's not just the financial stresses that contributes to poor mental health. COVID-19 and the lack of response from the federal government to support people seeking asylum has a huge impact on our clients' sense of belonging in the community. Without having access to JobKeeper or JobSeeker, people are left destitute. For a lot of the clients that we're working with, they have been hardworking, contributing members of society for a number of years, and this crisis has left them at risk of homelessness and complete destitution. That's why now more than ever it's so important that as a community we make people seeking asylum feel welcome and know that they are valued members of the Australian community. As a charity, we partner with parishes, schools and the local community to help provide our services to our clients. There are a number of ways that you can help. Be a food bank partner and help us to organise food bank drives to provide the essential services of our program. Donate to our emergency cash appeal so that we can deliver our housing, financial assistance and a range of other programs. Volunteer with us at House of Welcome. We have a range of roles and we always value new faces in the centre. As you are now, continue to learn about the issues facing people seeking asylum in the community and have those important conversations with the people you know. Make sure you keep up to date with the Refugee Council of Australia campaigns and the Catholics for Refugees campaigns as well. Thank you so much for supporting us and for joining our journey to welcome people seeking asylum and refugees in the Australian community.
Thank you, Miriam, Sabeen and Georgia. Thank you for being your wonderful selves and being that incredibly important, welcoming community. So to welcome, we need to firstly see each other as human beings, to see each other as brothers and sisters, to create a safe place, and we need our actions to match our words and our values. Unfortunately, at the moment, that isn't what a lot of asylum seekers and refugees find in Australia. But we can change that. We can run food drives in our communities, we can donate, we can volunteer with friends, we can meet with people. We can also advocate to our governments that we as Catholics want Australia to be a generous place. We want to welcome the stranger. Let's commit ourselves to this today and into the future.